According to the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, adults gain around 0.5 to 1 kilograms per year on average. While this isn't a huge amount, this can easily accumulate over multiple years and lead to unwanted gains in body fat. And it seems that humans are gaining more weight over time at a faster rate. According to the World Health Organization, obesity rates are rapidly increasing over time. In the United States, obesity rates have increased from around 12% in 1975 to over 37% in 2016. This is an increase of more than 3 times in only 41 years. And similar trends are observed in other countries too, but mostly in other developed Western nations. This trend appears to be continuing over time with no signs of slowing down. So in the modern world, many of us probably need to make a conscious effort to control our body weight over time. In this video, we will cover how to lose weight and some strategies to keep this weight off long term. At the most fundamental level, long-term changes in body weight occur as a result of our energy balance. In other words, how many calories we consume versus how many we expend. And the net balance of this equation will determine whether we gain, lose, or maintain our body weight long-term. If we eat more calories than we expend, we will gain weight. If we eat the same number of calories we expend, we will maintain weight. And if we eat less calories than we expend, we will lose weight. So to lose weight, we want to be in this energy balance state here, a calorie deficit. It is also important to understand that energy expenditure is dynamic. This means that our energy expenditure is not a set value which is consistent all the time. It varies slightly from day to day, but also changes over time based on our current body weight, body composition, and our exercise habits. We will discuss how this relates to weight management later in this video. So simply put, to lose weight, we need to eat fewer calories than we expend over time. But how many calories should we consume to lose weight? Well, this will be based on a few different factors. The first is the rate of weight loss you are looking to achieve. A bigger calorie deficit means you will lose weight at a faster rate, while a smaller deficit means you will lose weight at a slower rate. While there is no specific rate of weight loss that is ideal for everyone in all cases, there are trade-offs which need to be understood when deciding on the magnitude of your calorie deficit. First is simply your time frame. Obviously, a faster rate of weight loss means you will reach your desired target in a faster time frame, which is usually more desirable, while a slower rate of weight loss means it will take longer. This may or may not be all that important to you depending on your specific context and if you have a specific time frame that you want to lose weight for. If you want to lose weight for a certain event, then you may need to achieve a slightly faster rate of weight loss for that specific purpose. But if you aren't looking to lose weight within a specific time frame, then you can take the journey at whatever rate you please. Although we should be aware that this will also influence our next consideration, which is adherence. Probably the most important consideration here is adherence. Weight loss ultimately comes down to sticking to the plan for an extended period of time. Generally, losing weight at a faster rate is probably going to make the process more difficult to adhere to due to increased hunger, increased diet rigidity, and therefore less overall flexibility in both the diet and your daily schedule. Whereas a slower rate of weight loss is generally easier to adhere to since you will have less overall hunger, more diet flexibility, and therefore a more adaptable daily schedule. However, I would add that if you have significant weight to lose, a faster rate of weight loss may be helpful from a motivation perspective. If your rate of weight loss is too slow, it can be demotivating to see such insignificant changes which could potentially inhibit adherence. This also relates to our next consideration, which is how much body fat do you have to lose in the first place? Those starting out with more body fat can usually achieve a faster absolute rate of weight loss, whereas a leaner individual probably cannot lose weight at as fast of a rate. This is because having higher than ideal levels of adipose tissue is probably not essential for healthy bodily function, so there is less resistance to losing this fat. Whereas you will likely run into more physiological resistance when trying to lose weight whilst already relatively lean. This also means that someone with more body fat will probably experience less hunger whilst in a deficit compared with a leaner individual. Furthermore, having more total body weight is usually going to be an indicator of a higher total energy expenditure in most cases, meaning that you don't have to drop calories too low to see significant weight loss. Whereas a leaner individual will have to consume quite a low calorie intake to see any amount of weight loss. And the last consideration here is muscle retention. For most people, the goal is not to simply lose weight, it is to lose body fat while preserving or potentially even gaining muscle mass in the process. And evidence suggests that our rate of weight loss may influence the amount of muscle we can retain during a weight loss period. This was seen in this study, which compared the effects of losing weight at a faster versus slower rate on body composition. 24 elite athletes from multiple different disciplines performed resistance training 4 times per week in addition to their regular sport training. Half the subjects ate in a more aggressive deficit, with the goal to lose around 1.4% of body weight per week for a shorter time period, while the other half ate in a less aggressive deficit with the aim to lose around 0.7% of body weight per week for a longer duration. It ended up taking around 5.3 weeks to reach the target weight loss goal in the fast weight loss group, while it took around 8.5 weeks for the slow weight loss group. In terms of body composition, both groups lost the same total amount of body weight. However, the fast weight loss group saw a slight loss of lean mass, shown in the blue, while the slow weight loss group saw a 1 kilo gain in lean mass during the diet, shown in the orange. This also means that fat loss was greater with the slow weight loss compared with the fast weight loss. This study suggests that it is probably preferable to lose weight at a slightly slower rate if your aim is to preserve as much muscle mass as possible. This may extend the time of your weight loss diet, but will likely result in more favorable body compositions at the end of the diet. So as a general recommendation, I think that most people should aim for a rate of weight loss of no more than around 1% of body weight per week. If you don't have a specific time frame you want to lose weight by and you are leaner, you might want to stay more on the lower end of this recommendation. And if you do have a specific time frame you want to lose weight by and you are starting with a higher body fat, then it may be worth aiming for the faster end of this recommendation. Another variable that comes into play in the weight loss discussion is how energy expenditure changes as we lose weight. In almost all cases, weight loss results in a decrease in energy expenditure. This was seen in this study, which explored the effects of weight loss on energy expenditure. 17 obese subjects were dieted down until they reached a weight loss target of 10% of their initial body weight. They then maintained this new body weight for 6 to 8 weeks. They then dieted down until they lost a further 10% of body weight before maintaining for another 6 to 8 weeks. It was found that total daily energy expenditure dropped from around 3,200 calories down to around 2,600 calories after 10% weight loss, and down to around 2,200 calories after 20% weight loss. And of this energy expenditure, it was found that all components tended to see reductions. Resting energy expenditure dropped from around 1,900 to 1,500 calories. The thermic effect of feeding dropped from 114 to 82 calories. And non-resting energy expenditure, in other words, exercise, physical activity, and subconscious movements, dropped from around 1,100 to 600 calories. Let's now discuss some of the factors that contribute to this. The first and main reason this occurs is due to tissue loss. Lean mass in particular tends to be highly metabolically active and contributes a great deal to our resting energy expenditure. So any losses in lean mass, which is quite likely with significant weight loss, will mean that we are expending less energy at rest. Furthermore, even fat tissue appears to somewhat contribute to energy expenditure too, although to a lesser extent. So as we lose body weight, even if most of it is fat, our resting energy expenditure will decrease. And this will likely have a major impact on total daily energy expenditure, since resting energy expenditure is the largest contributing factor to how we burn energy throughout the day in most cases. Furthermore, we probably burn less energy from movement and exercise during weight loss for a few different reasons. First is because a calorie deficit often causes a subconscious reduction in NEAT, which is an abbreviation for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This refers to movements which are consequential of our daily life, not intentional exercise. This includes movements such as walking around your home, walking around the supermarket, fidgeting, arm movements, head movements, and any other non-intentional movements you perform throughout the day. During weight loss, it is common for NEAT levels to reduce as a means of conserving energy. However, this is probably more of a concern for leaner individuals and probably isn't as much of a concern for those with initially higher levels of body fat. Furthermore, even if you perform the same amount of exercise and NEAT, you will still likely expend less energy at a lighter body weight. This is because you are simply moving less total body mass with all movements. This is overall less energetically expensive compared with performing the same amount of activity at a heavier body weight. And last is due to what is known as adaptive thermogenesis. This is the idea that energy expenditure decreases as a result of being in a calorie deficit itself. So this isn't really a result of weight loss, it is a result of the deficit which is required to lose weight. Furthermore, this same concept also goes the other way too. In other words, energy expenditure tends to increase as a result of a calorie surplus. It is not entirely clear as to what components of energy expenditure are up and down regulated during a surplus and deficit, and the magnitude seems to vary between individuals. However, exactly why this occurs is less of a concern, since it is quite clear that this phenomenon does in fact occur consistently. This was seen in this study, which explored the effects of a calorie deficit and surplus on energy expenditure. 32 healthy men underwent a 50% calorie surplus for 1 week, followed by a 50% calorie deficit for 3 weeks, followed by another 50% surplus for 2 weeks. And as expected, energy expenditure changed based on whether the subjects were in a surplus or deficit. At baseline, energy expenditure was around 2,400 calories. It then went up to 2,500 during the initial surplus, then down to 2,200 during the deficit. Then it went back up to 2,500 after another surplus. So once weight loss has been achieved, the next stage for many people is to try and maintain this new lower body weight. Hypothetically, this should be easier than the initial weight loss itself, since we are able to eat more calories to maintain body weight compared with eating in a deficit. However, the reality is that at a population level, most people are not very successful with their attempts to maintain weight loss. According to this research review, people tend to slowly regain their lost body weight over time. After 1 year, people regain around 30% of lost weight on average. And after 5 years, people regain around 80% of lost weight. So what we want to know is, why does this occur? Well, on a physiological level, it still comes back to energy balance. Weight regain is a result of eating more calories than we expend. But this is pretty obvious. We need to go a little deeper and try to understand what is causing people to increase their calorie intake and/or decrease energy expenditure. Ultimately, this comes down to our lifestyle behaviors. There are a multitude of variables which influence our diet and exercise behaviors, such as our upbringing, food environment, food preferences, genetics, social life, geographical location, culture, personal responsibilities, and much, much more. So even if you use enough willpower and discipline to lose weight initially, chances are you will regain some, if not all of this over time, if you were put back into the exact same lifestyle that caused the weight gain to occur initially. So to successfully maintain weight loss, it really takes a change in lifestyle for it to stick. Unfortunately, some of these lifestyle factors are outside of our control. In particular, our lives are becoming more sedentary and we have easier and cheaper access to high-calorie foods. This is often termed as an obesogenic environment. However, there are strategies we can implement on a daily basis to slowly help us change our lifestyle to one which promotes a lower calorie intake and more energy expenditure. Let's now cover some strategies that can help us maintain weight loss long term. We will discuss both diet and exercise strategies and how they can help us maintain weight loss. The first and probably most important strategy to help maintain weight loss is to continue tracking and recording body weight over time. This is to see how your body weight is changing over time so that you can make adjustments based on these trends. Without this data, it is difficult to notice any gradual changes in body weight over time, and therefore difficult to know if you need to make changes to your diet and exercise habits. This study explored the effects of daily self-monitoring on weight loss maintenance. 40 older men who had lost an average of 6.7 kilograms over a 12-week time frame were instructed to record their body weight, step count, and fruit and vegetable intake each day for 12 months. It was found that over the 12-month time frame, subjects successfully maintained their weight loss and even managed to continue losing a little weight on average. While this study also used diet and exercise tracking too, it suggests that recording body weight over time seems to be somewhat of an effective strategy to maintain weight loss. Another important factor which can influence the success of long-term weight maintenance is the foods we eat. Obviously, what we eat is one half of the energy balance equation, so it obviously has an impact on weight change over time. And quite clearly, the goal here is to maintain a lower energy intake so that we don't regain lost weight. However, we are going to be discussing the overarching principles of food selection rather than simply discussing calorie numbers. This is so that we can adapt our diet to integrate with our lifestyle as opposed to having to track calories for the rest of our life. So, what can we do to make appropriate food choices to support weight loss maintenance? This systematic review aimed to see what factors were associated with successful weight loss maintenance after initial weight loss. It was found that from a dietary perspective, consuming a higher protein and carbohydrate diet was positively associated with successful weight loss maintenance, whereas fat intake, sweets consumption, and fast food consumption were all negatively associated with successful weight loss maintenance. In other words, a regain of body weight. Furthermore, this study explored the association between successful weight loss maintenance and different dietary eating behaviors. 828 subjects who had lost an average of 8.4 kilos over a 6-month period were followed up 30 months later to see if they were able to maintain this lost body weight. It was found that on average, subjects had regained around half the weight back at the 30-month follow-up period. However, there were some general trends that were associated with the subjects who successfully maintained this weight loss. In particular, substituting fatty foods for protein and carbohydrates was associated with further reductions in body weight. Furthermore, consuming more servings of fruit or vegetables and dairy products also had a positive impact on body weight reduction. However, dietary fiber intake didn't have any significant effect on weight gain or loss. So, based on these studies, it seems that we might want to aim to consume more protein and carbohydrates in our diet and limit the intake of fat. And this makes sense since fat is more than twice as dense in calories compared with protein and carbohydrate. Furthermore, it is probably beneficial to try and increase your intake of fruits and vegetables and potentially increase low-fat dairy in the diet. And it will probably be a good idea to minimize the intake of high-calorie fast foods and sweets. The next factor to look at is our diet structure. More specifically, we are referring to how many meals per day we consume and when these are consumed throughout the day. This study explored the associations between various meal structures and weight change in over 50,000 adults across a 7-year time period. There were many informative diet structure associations found. First is that a lower meal frequency of 1 to 3 meals per day was associated with weight loss, while a higher meal frequency of 4 or more meals per day was associated with weight gain. In terms of fasting, those who fasted for a longer duration before consuming their first meal tended to lose weight over time, while those who had a shorter fasting duration tended to gain weight. Those who consumed breakfast tended to lose weight, while those skipping breakfast tended to maintain weight. And lastly, consuming the largest meal at breakfast or lunch was associated with greater weight loss compared with those consuming their largest meal at dinner. While there is a lot to unpack here, we can start to see some general eating patterns which may help us adhere to a lower calorie intake. It seems to be beneficial to consume fewer meals per day and avoid snacking between meals. It may also be beneficial to implement a shorter feeding window with a longer fasting duration. And it also seems to be beneficial to consume a meal earlier in the day and make this one of your larger daily meals, as opposed to eating most of your calories later in the day. Structuring your diet in such a way can potentially help you to consume less total calories throughout the day, helping to maintain weight loss. Another strategy to help consume a lower calorie intake, and therefore promote weight loss maintenance, is via meal preparation. This refers to cooking and/or preparing your own meals for consumption, as opposed to buying pre-packaged meals or fast food. Preparing your own meals means you have better control of what goes into your food, and therefore what you eat on a daily basis. And this tends to naturally result in a lower calorie intake. This was seen in this study, which explored the effects of home cooking frequency on diet quality. Across a population of almost 10,000 adults, it was reported that those who cooked dinner less frequently had a higher average daily calorie intake compared with those who cooked dinner more frequently. Those who cooked dinner 0 to 1 times per week consumed around 140 more calories per day compared with those who cooked dinner 6 to 7 times per week. So it seems that cooking or preparing your own meals is probably going to result in a lower calorie consumption compared with purchasing meals. This doesn't mean you can only eat home-cooked foods, but it will probably be beneficial to prepare most of your foods yourself and rely less on purchasing meals. Another helpful strategy for weight loss maintenance on the exercise side of the equation is step tracking. This refers to monitoring the number of steps you perform per day using some sort of pedometer, most commonly via the use of smartwatches. The number of steps we perform per day is a good general indicator of our overall physical activity levels, including both exercise and NEAT. This can allow us to see how much activity we are performing per day and make a conscious effort to increase this if necessary. And it is consistently found that increasing your step count is generally going to have favourable effects on weight loss maintenance. For example, this study explored the effects of education and group-based support on weight loss and weight loss maintenance. Both groups lost weight in the initial 6 months before regaining some of this weight back in the following 2 years, so both groups started and ended in a similar place. However, further analysis into this data showed that changes in step counts were predictive of those who lost more or less weight. As we can see, those who didn't lose any weight and actually gained weight had no change or performed fewer steps per day than they habitually had been, shown in the blue. Whereas those who lost the most weight during the intervention significantly increased their step count by around 2,600 per day, shown in the yellow. And the last behavior to assist us with weight loss maintenance is resistance training. Resistance training isn't really going to contribute a whole lot to overall energy expenditure. So the goal of resistance training isn't really to assist with weight loss maintenance directly. The role of resistance training is more so to improve our body composition. More specifically, resistance training will help us retain muscle mass during weight loss and even build muscle mass at your new lower body weight. This is important because, like we previously mentioned, most people want to reduce body fat, not muscle mass. So resistance training can help us maintain a more favourable body composition at whatever body weight you are currently at. Let's now take all this information and establish some practical recommendations. First, it is important to understand the concept of energy balance. From a physiological perspective, we are trying to manipulate energy intake and energy expenditure to influence body weight over time. To lose weight in the first place, an energy deficit is required. This means we need to consume fewer calories than we expend. A decent general starting point is to aim for a rate of weight loss of somewhere less than around 1% of body weight per week. Based on your current body fat, time frame, and personal circumstances, you can opt to aim for the higher or lower end of this range. Furthermore, it is also important to understand that energy expenditure will typically drop during and after significant losses in body weight. This is due to tissue loss, changes in physical activity levels, and due to adaptive thermogenesis. Therefore, the diet will need to be adjusted over time based on your newly established energy expenditure amounts at different body weights. Then, once weight loss has been achieved, the next challenge is to maintain this new lower body weight. This is where most people struggle, often regaining lost weight. This is likely because maintaining a lower body weight than previously ultimately requires a change in your overall lifestyle or environment. Some general behavioral strategies to help us maintain weight loss are the following. Consistently tracking your body weight over time to assess trends and make adjustments if necessary. Making appropriate food choices on a day-to-day basis, more specifically aiming to consume foods higher in protein and carbohydrates rather than fats, and increasing fruit and vegetable intake. Furthermore, minimizing your intake of high-calorie sweets and fast food. A great strategy to assist with this is to cook and prepare the majority of your meals throughout the week, as opposed to purchasing ready-to-eat or pre-packaged meals. Furthermore, calorie intake can be controlled via manipulating our diet structure. In particular, it seems to be beneficial to consume your meals within a shorter time period, consume fewer meals per day, and possibly to bias more calories to earlier meals rather than later. In terms of exercise, tracking your daily step count can give a decent overall indicator of activity levels each day. This is going to be a good general indicator of overall energy expenditure via movement, since it accounts for both exercise and NEAT. You can then make conscious decisions to increase activity levels if it is realistic and beneficial for you. And lastly, it is probably going to be beneficial to implement regular resistance training to improve your overall body composition. In other words, have a greater proportion of muscle and less fat at any given body weight. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this video. Check out flowhighperformance.com for online coaching, training templates, ebooks, and more.